89% of millionaires are first generation millionaires. This is from a podcast that Dave Ramsey did with Theo, where Dave talked about how they interviewed thousands of different millionaires and how they found that wealth and some of the different factors around the discussion that Theo had with Dave Ramsey. And I've got to say, I really, really enjoyed the entire podcast with Theo because he really, as a comedian, is able to think a lot like a normal human being, like a normal person. Although Theo I'm sure himself is a millionaire. I'm sure Theo has done lots of things and made tons and tons of money. His questions were real because he's able to relate to normal people. And some of the big factors when Dave brought that up, 89% of people were first generation millionaires, is he went through what those jobs were. We're looking at engineers, accountants, teachers, lawyers, okay? These are process-oriented individuals. These are individuals who every single paycheck, they do something specifically. They go through a process, they receive what they're doing with their paycheck, and on top of that, in their actual work, their work is processional. Dave brought up how teachers end up, by the age of 30, they're out of debt, okay? By age of 40, in a lot of cases, they've paid off their homes. By age of 50, they're already millionaires. They have millions of dollars saved based off of their investments and what they're doing on a weekly basis, okay? So that was one of the coolest parts that I really enjoyed. Another thing that I wanted to get into with Dave, and he tends to be, a pretty religious individual, is he talks about different Bible scriptures and what it says about money. And there's some different things in Ecclesiastes. There's a lot of stuff in Proverbs. There's a lot of stuff in Psalms. There's a lot of stuff in the New Testament even that's a little bit more aggressive, like super, super anti-money. But one of the big factors is not spending and not putting so much of your self-worth into money, but putting your self-worth into who you are as an individual, and recognizing that the most important aspect is having some enjoyment and some passion. And when you have some passion, you're able to figure out what you want to do in life, and you're able to scale that. And I think that's the biggest lesson from this, is that Dave Ramsey, Theo the entire discussion was based around a couple different factors of, one, how can you make millions of dollars or save millions of dollars? But two, it was simple things like how to scale a business. So you could be a teacher, listen to this, and really have some type of success out of the entire podcast, or a business person, and you could hear what Dave was saying as a successful business person, hear what was working for him, and then take that and apply it specifically. And this is where I wanted to go a little bit, is that when he was talking about finding that passion, he did bring up teachers, and he's like, look, a teacher is going to be able to impact people. They're going to teach people specific lessons, okay? They're going to teach people knowledge that they need to retain, and knowledge that they then can apply. They're going to teach them simple things like math, right? And what's cool is that Dave even goes into later some of the stuff around money is it's simple math. And he's like, the teacher becomes passionate about this, then they have a process for when they get paid. They have a process for, the second week of the month, a process for the fourth week of the month, a process for how to save, their rainy day fund. They have a process for all these things, but they also have the passion, okay? That's their self-worth. Their self-worth is not in the treasures, okay, as though when he was talking about the scriptures from the Bible, but their self-worth is in something other than the worldly things that we have here. Now, where I wanted to go with that is one of the best parts and one of the biggest failures that I've had as a business person, and some of the success I've had, is that I struggled early on as a business person of multiple different businesses now, and one that I've exited that was, well into the 7 figures, was that I didn't fully grasp scalability. I didn't fully grasp what that even meant. I was passionate about something I wanted to do and how I wanted to help people. But I never fully grasped the thought process of scalability. And Dave speaks on this really, really eloquently, where he's like, listen, people who tend to have a lot of money, let's say you start a business where you're mowing lawns, or let's say you take a company you start a business where you're going to be hosing down, like concrete block or something to make it look cleaner. You're cleaning a building, right? He's like, okay, you can do that for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. You can really, that's how you make money, right? Like that's what you're going to do. But you got to have a plan to be able to raise your value. And that was something that's like, it sounds so simple, and hearing it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's like the big factor that a lot of people forget when they start a business is they don't think through, what's the scalability of this? How can we work through this and make this so that we can reach more people? And I think when you have a passion, you get so stuck in this specific thing that you want to work towards that you forget those aspects of reaching more people. And Dave touches on that really well, because that also leads to more financial gains. And for myself personally, we were able to scale a physical product for my first company, for my second company, but now for my third company, we're actually having a SaaS product that's scalable. So it's easier to scale a SaaS product. And these were thoughts that when I was 25, I wish someone was saying to me, and I wish that I listened to this Theo Vaughn podcast with Dave Ramsey, because you're hearing it, you're going, holy shit, if I was 25 again, that's what I would be focusing on. When I'm talking to my 14-year-old son, hey, what's scalable here that you're passionate about, that you can actually, make some good money, but also have a really, really big impact on people. And this sort of catered into some other really, really cool aspects within the podcast, discussing, okay, if you're going to start a business and you want to scale it, you got to figure out how to be a leader. And oftentimes we forget that if you want to be scalable and if you want to have a company, you have to lead people well to make more money, to impact more people, to reinvest into the company, and then be able to give to others. And so when you're able to give to others, now you feel better. Now you can come back around. You can help other people get them back on their feet and really get them learning. And so all of these different things Ramsey and Theo Vaughn touch on, and I really think it's like the simplest aspect around financial gains that I've really ever listened to, where it's like, dude, this is just like cut and dry, as easy as it comes. My 10-year-old could understand this. And they finish off, they're starting about it, and Theo's like, what's the biggest aspect that people forget? And this is where it goes back to simple math. Dave goes, look, everything with finances is simple math. You have to make more money than you spend. And the whole issue is that everybody in the US gets conned by things outside of passion, right? They don't want to, we get conned out of, I want to impress somebody with a cool car. And that person doesn't even care about you. I want to impress this person. I want to put off this image that might not be real. And the whole build out it's simple math. Don't worry about what other people think about you. If you're doing things that you're passionate about, that's all that matters. That's truly all that matters. And then your finances come down to simple math. You've got to make more money than you're spending. And you've got to have money in the bank for a rainy day. And you got to invest 15% of your income once you get your feet under you, once you get that debt paid off. And that's how you can make those simple steps. But it genuinely comes back to that simple math. And he even says then, if you don't have a job, then you got to get another job. If you've got a job right now, then what you got to do is you got to try to figure out, how can I provide more value to my employer? Or how can I make more money from my employer if you feel as though you're underpaid and you can actually prove that you're underpaid? But it all comes back to that simple math. And so I wanted to share this because the nuggets out of this freaking podcast were absolutely insane. I think you guys could go check it out. It's worthwhile. hope this helps somebody out there. And I think there's a lot of things here that you can just roll with and actually apply to your daily life. Until next time, peace.